Welcome to the 2025 Homegrown Concert Series from the American Folklife Center. My name is Steve Winnick, and for many years, the American Folklife Center has brought the very best in traditional music and dance right here to Washington, D.C., and the Coolidge Auditorium of the Library of Congress, which is where we are right now. Whenever we can, we like to interview the artists in the Homegrown Concert Series to get some more background and context for their concerts. So tonight, we are very pleased to have with us the Creek Rocks from Springfield, Missouri, and we're going to talk to them in just a minute. I'll also introduce my colleague Jennifer Cutting, who will be participating in this interview. And when we begin these interviews, I often like to ask the musicians to say their own names. I interview people from a wide variety of cultures with a wide variety of languages, and so I would like you to pronounce your names the way you like them to be pronounced.
Cindy Woolf.
Mark Bilyeu, except without the croak.
Well, let's start out by, if you could tell me about your individual music backgrounds before you came together to form the duo. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. My musical life has been informed, I would say, mostly by my family, my extended family, and they're very musical people. If you might think about, say, the Benoit family in New Orleans or whatever, I've heard people compare our family to that. I'm not saying as great as, but in terms of how many of them there are and how many of them play an instrument or sing. So my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, he was a fiddler. You'd call him a traditional fiddler from our perspective. I don't think he thought of it that way, but and my parents' generation were very involved in gospel music, gospel singing, quartets, things like that related to the church. And when we get down to my nuclear family, my mom was a trained pianist, and my father was. They were both wonderful singers. They led the music in the Southern Baptist Church where we attended, and I'd say that sums it up pretty nicely, I think.
I don't have quite the musical family that Mark has, but a little bit different. I grew up in Arkansas, and my family, we had one cousin who played the piano, and so everyone would just gather around and sing. So we all sang, and Reba Lois played the piano in a very dramatic fashion. And so I've always just sang. I've always wanted to sing. And I started, we grew up in the Southern Baptist Church, and so I was, kicking the other kids out of the way so I could have the solos. And I started on piano. I played piano growing up. And so then as I got older, I learned guitar and started writing songs. And I performed for quite a while as a singer-songwriter. And I had 3 albums out just under my name that this guy produced. So yeah, when I went to college in Missouri, in Springfield, Missouri, I met this guy, and we started playing together, and he played guitar, and Mark likes to say, before we were the Creek Rocks, we were Cindy Woolf. So we kind of traveled around and played my songs and his songs as well. He's my favorite songwriter right here.
It's supposed to be about you now.
Okay, well, but before the band, so that's, and so yeah, I just traveled around doing that for a good decade or so until we decided to form the Creek Rocks.
Cool, and I'll mention that Mark mentioned his family and the great extended musical family, and we actually have recordings of one of your family members in our Vance Randolph collection. How are you related to Bill Bilyeu?
Bill Bilyeu was the grandfather I mentioned who played the fiddle. That was his first cousin.
Okay.
And it's real interesting because in that family, I tracked down, I think, 9 of the men from that generation, be it my grandfather's brothers and first cousins. There was 9 of them that were good enough to play fiddle in their part of the Ozarks to have been asked to provide music for the entertainment for
Yeah.
dances and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's a big fiddling tradition.
All right.
there.
Yeah, and we've got one of your cousins up in the collection. So
Yeah.
people can come by and listen to recordings of Mark's cousin among many other Ozark performers. So so you mentioned how you sort of came together and started playing together and then decided you were a band. So how did you come up with the name the Creek Rocks?
Well, partly by necessity, because her last name is Wolf, but it's spelled with 2 O's, and my name Bilyeu is Bilyeu. So we quickly realized when we'd use our own names that invariably every venue we played at, both names were misspelled.
So we have quite a photograph collection of signs in front of clubs all over the country with all kinds of whatever spelling you can dream up. They've tried it, except the right ones usually.
Yeah.
And we were working with a management company at the time, and we visited them in Denver, and we had to drive home to Missouri. And he said, by the time you get back, have a band name. And so the whole about 12-hour trip from Denver to Springfield was just us back and forth brainstorming. And by the time we got to Springfield, we'd arrived at the Creek Rocks.
All right.
Well, speaking of titles, you've got a very important title here, which is you are the American Folklife Center's very first artists in resonance. And I will say we looked at, I know because I was on the selection committee, we looked at an awful lot of applications for this first round of this fellowship, 22 to be exact. And ideally, we were looking for that magical combination of researcher, composer, arranger, and performer, which we found in the Creek Rocks. So I like to think of things in terms of a pie chart. So in that pie chart of your psyches, what percentages do you think that you are individually, I guess I would say, because there are 2 of you, of those 3 elements? And I'm talking about researcher, arranger, performer.
Well, as you know, the Ozarks region is blessed by more than a couple large collections of folk song music, inspired in part by the music from my family that I was telling you about. I became really interested in that and digging up the past and seeing what more I could learn about my heritage, basically. And early on, I had an opportunity when I was in school to work with the Max Hunter collection. Mm-hmm. It was not a glorified job. I basically transcribed the lyrics from his pages to the computer. It was busy work, you know, but that got me rolling. And I really wanted to follow that path. And at some point there was a crossroads where I had to decide if I would go down kind of the academic route or more of the entertainer performer route. So at some point I think I just put one pie down and picked the other one up and chose to go the route of the song and dance man. But the other instincts never left me. And so I think it's fair to say that with our fellowship and then us coming up here, I mean, that was some serious research. That was like, we're at the big leagues now here at the Library of Congress, and fair to say that was kind of your first dive into some serious looking up primary documents and things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I might say she took to very well immediately, very well, and so I think as I get older and I see what lies ahead, I think the research part of the pie is starting to get a little bigger than the other aspects. Maybe as a segue, I would say as composer, she's one of my favorite songwriters that have ever lived. So I would say, I mean, you can jump in there if you'd like, but I'd say your portion of the pie, the composer, is a big portion of it.
You think?
I do. I do.
This is about you.
No, 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 no.
Numbers, man. What's your numbers?
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree. I would have answered this question very differently a year ago. But yeah, I was like, there's one point I would have had the entire pie just performer, you know. But after we started our band, the Creek Rocks, and we started really focusing on the John Quincy Woolf and the Max Hunter collections and the Mary Parler collections all back home, you know, I wouldn't call it necessarily research, sitting there, you know, on my couch listening to, you know, these people sing. I guess it kind of is though, you know, and it's just something I would do for fun, you know, and people kept asking me or calling us more academics, and I was like, why, you know, I'm just a singer, you know, and I like to listen to other singers, and then I like, you know, it's folk music, then you just sing it, you sing your version of it. So yeah, and then we started arranging these versions of these, you know, a cappella songs that you hear, and they're just, you know, there's not much there. They're very open to your interpretation, and you know, the chords that you choose, or you know, the instrumentation. So arranging those was really, I don't know. So yeah, I think the pie has really grown in the arranging area and the research area. So I'd still say mostly performer, the arranger, and then a little bit researcher, which is getting bigger all the time.
All right.
As we have done more and more of this arranging of traditional songs, like Cindy said, people will introduce us as, they'll use words that don't apply, like scholars and things like that.
Yeah.
We have to explain to them that we're not in the dusty back rooms of libraries going through old boxes. We're sitting on our couch pulling things up online that the work of people like you have made it possible for us to be able to do these things. So,
Well, we're glad that you're doing it, and you have such a great, strong regional focus, and we've noticed that there's a lot of excitement about the Ozarks region. There's Ozarks podcasts and Ozarks websites, and you brought along Caitlin, who's running a great Ozarks website out there. And we wonder what you attribute this excitement about the Ozarks region. Why are people so into their Ozarks heritage?
wow, that's a good question. Any ideas? You may have stumped us.
Because it's good.
It's cool, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, being from the region, it's hard to say what people from outside the region might, but I would say that the Ozarks in the past has a lot of times been dismissed as sort of the Appalachia's sort of younger brother or something. And I'm not going to say that's not entirely true. So I mean, so many of my ancestors indeed came through Kentucky and Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I do think, in all the years I've been looking at it, I think there's differences to be pointed out, and it may be that people are just now starting to realize through the online collections that there's a wealth of stuff to discover that hasn't, you know, they haven't had access to in the past, and so maybe that's why you're noticing that. Hard to say.
You mentioned the differences. What do you think it is? Can you put your finger on what it is that might set Ozarks folk music apart from other Anglo-American folk music in other regions like Appalachia?
Well, that's a question that I figured would be a lifelong quest, you know. I think broadly, and it may be at first kind of a disappointing thing, because you're not gonna, as you get into Ozarks music, at least from the stuff that got preserved via audio recordings, you're not gonna find very many of these masters of the instruments, the great clawhammer banjo players, so if you're looking for that sort of thing and you go into the Ozarks, you might be a little disappointed. But what that brings out is that the Ozarks folk music is very voice-oriented. The voice is the thing. Not to say that it's not in Appalachia, but all the people that have gotten close to something you'd call fame from Ozarks folk music are people like Almeda Riddle, Ollie Gilbert, and these are vocalists. These are people who sing unaccompanied, and so I think that sticks through for me as something I can stand behind and say that that's one difference.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Did you have anything to add, Cindy?
I don't reckon.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, thanks. So, Mark, you brought up working with the Max Hunter collection specifically, and I know you both worked with that collection and also with the John Quincy Woolf collection, leading to your first CD as a duo. So, tell us a little bit about that work, about those collections, and what you did there, and how that led to a recording.
Great. I might turn this over to Cindy because she's more often than not, our arrangement, it begins with her. She usually takes the first step, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why we started really getting serious about it, but we always just kind of listened to those recordings because we like them, you know, and the more you listen to them, the more you like them because you feel like the singers are like your best friends or your grandparents or something, you know, and you find these singers that, you know, you just need to hear a little bit of every night to, you know, make you feel better. So we started just listening to these singers on these collections a lot. And so at that time, I was just starting to learn banjo. And so the way I was doing that was picking out the melodies on the banjo from the singers. And so that's just how the arrangement started. We started working up the songs, putting our own spin on it. I would pick out the melody on the banjo, and then Mark would come along and play some really weird guitar chords that no one else would have thought of, and some crazy tuning, and all of a sudden you got something really unique sounding, you know. And so we started playing those songs, and we're like, maybe we're onto something here. So, and once we started, it was just, you know, one after the other. That's kind of all we wanted to do. We kind of put our notebooks and pens down for a while and stopped being singer-songwriters and just went to the whole world of just folk music. And
another thing that she is good at doing is, because of the different collections of the Ozarks music, she's not shy about when we need to put together a good solid version of a particular song that will, we tend not to stray outside of the Ozarks, but she'll gather up the different versions of the same song from the different collections and kind of piece the verses together such that it makes good narrative sense. And so that's part of the process as well, wouldn't you say?
yeah.
Although I guess you stray technically outside the Ozarks a little bit, because like Emma Dusenberry is technically not at the Ozarks, right?
Right.
Stand and watch
Guilty. Well, yeah, we're guilty of that. Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, but you know, but it's a very close related tradition and you know, extension of the mountains in a way. Yeah.
Well, at one point we almost wanted to expand the project to incorporate both Arkansas and Missouri, because it seemed silly to focus so steadfastly on the Ozarks when Sidney Robertson's recordings in Missouri and Arkansas. If we just did the Ozarks, and there would be these, you know, folks in St. Louis and folks in Little Rock, and it seemed silly just to ignore them.
Yeah.
You know.
We decided just to focus on her trip
Yeah.
during, you know, 1936, 37, December to January, trip through Missouri and Arkansas. So that does include a little bit outside of the Ozarks.
Plus, with Emma Dusenberry, the Ouachita Mountains up there, you know, I mean, it's like she was kind of alone up there. I mean, maybe you can tell me different, but it's sort of like we wanted to gather her up and bring her into our to our realm. But yeah.
That kind of makes sense, sure.
So you first visited the Folklife Reading Room here in the Library of Congress when you took part in the Ozarks program at the Smithsonian Folklife Festival,
Yes.
I think. And you had an extra afternoon and you came to visit.
Yeah, we
Tell
made
us
an
about-
extra afternoon.
Tell us about why you decided to come and what you found when you came.
Well, you two, to me, have dream jobs. And from afar, whether it be through recordings from the Smithsonian Folkways or certainly the field recordings, and I knew that the American Folklife Center was kind of the heartbeat of this whole universe of music that I've dearly loved for years and years. So it was important for me I would say, I can't be in Washington and not go visit, you know. So that's why.
Oh, we're glad you came.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Look what happened.
That's right. So you are, as we mentioned, the very first artists in residence at the Library of Congress, and that's a new fellowship that was established through the generosity of a man named Mike Rivers. And the idea is to bring artists to the archive to work on creative projects and create things like albums and concert tours and that kind of thing. And there's a long tradition of this. I mean, we have everyone from Johnny Cash to Miles Davis and Feist to Beyonce has listened to our recordings and used things
Wow.
from them. But we've been wanting to, encourage this in a more active way. And so we, put out a call for proposals, and you sent us a proposal where you singled out these Sidney Robertson Cowell recordings from 1936, 37. And she was working for the Resettlement Administration. And what spoke to you about those recordings, particularly from your first visit?
Well, her visit to the Ozarks and specifically to Springfield, which is where I was born, I'd become aware of her trip, and some people from my area have written about her trip, but I had never actually heard the recordings. As far as I know, none of the people that wrote about her trip had actually heard the recordings. And being as they were the first real field recordings of folk music from our area as early as 1936, I mean, I just really, really wanted to hear them, you know. And I noticed that interest in Sidney Robertson Cowell had gone up in recent years, and I was really impressed by the work done on her California recording, and I just thought, well, here is a chapter just prior to that has gotten relatively less attention, and it's a great interest to us. And I said, well, then let's maybe we can do something to kind of fill in that gap, and then we can learn something about the place where we're from in the process.
Mm-hmm. And the recordings are so much older than what we had worked with, the Max Hunter and the John Quincy Woolf collection. Like those recordings are all from like the 60s, you know? And so this is, from the 30s, like we wanted to hear the difference of the older recordings, and they were quite different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the challenge embedded in this fellowship is to listen to those recordings and create something new with them, based on them, sourced from them. We'd love to know a little bit more about your particular kinds of ideas and techniques for reimagining the songs that you hear on these field recordings. First of all, at the most basic level, what attracts you to the song? Is it the melody? Is it the lyrics? Which one do you listen to first? Is it a combination of the two?
Yeah. I'm going to say like 99% melody.
Okay.
That's what grabs our ear for sure first. And some of those, I don't know what it is about the melody. Everything you hear today is all kind of sounds the same a little bit. And so when you go back to those recordings, there's there's some melodies that are just, they sound so different from everything you hear today. They sound kind of ancient. And so that's what we're looking for, is those melodies that really stand out to us.
Yeah, and we're biased towards the kind of melodies that are, to get specific about it, less major key oriented, more things with modality, and pentatonic things, and so that's our bias, and we found a great wealth of that in the Sidney Robertson stuff. That there's some of that in the later collections that she was referring to, but it seems to have filtered out to a large degree. And I remember one day at the AFC, and she was listening with the headphones on, and she's like, put them on, and we both knew instantly, like, yes, that's fantastic, And it turned out to be an Emma Dusenberry song,
And didn't you run into the back room and grab the Burl Ives guitar and the John Cohen banjo
Yes,
and
we
start
did.
working on an arrangement idea right away?
We did. And we went into the spiral staircase and recorded a version almost right away. And just incidentally, it was kind of strange because she started singing, I picked up the Burl Ives guitar, and this doesn't happen often, but a guitar figure just seemed to appear underneath my fingers, and it worked really well, and we both realized it, and so.
And it was not what I was expecting at all. It was very I don't know where.
Yeah, so thank you, AFC, and thank you, Burl Ives.
It's a beautiful Hauser guitar.
Yeah, it's a wonderful sounding guitar.
Now, do you use many open tunings in your arrangements?
Yeah, I do.
Dad-gad?
Dad,
others?
Gad, yep, open G, open D. I'm not trying to like brag or anything. I think I'm using, in the program tonight, I think I'm using 6 different tunings, so.
Excellent.
That's great.
Yeah, the reason we end up doing that is, like there's a song, the one we were talking about, the Emma Dusenberry, where we were like, hey, and there's a guitar figure that I wanted to play, and I just simply tuned the strings to make it easy to play it. And so it's not it's not one of the tunings that you would recognize by its nickname or anything. It's just like, this is the Father in a Kingdom tuning, because when I play it, you notice that my left hand, I just have to do this over and over, and so it's basically to make it easy for myself.
Yeah. Well, so Father in a Kingdom is a great gospel song that you found, and that recording that you made in the staircase sounds great, but I'm sure you've worked on it more since then. And I wonder if you could tell us a couple of the other songs that you found that you think are just unique to that, to that collection and those versions.
One of my favorites was May Kennedy McCord's version of Barbie Allen, which was, in any collection and this collection, it's the one that you see the most, I would say. Maybe Froggy Wintercorton, I don't know, between those two.
Yeah.
So yeah, every collection has like 20 Barbie Allens. But May Kennedy McCord, she sang for Sidney what she said was the old Ozarks melody to Barbie Allen. And she just did like 2 verses just so you'd get the melody, and it was really interesting, really different from anything we had heard. So we really wanted to run with that one. And so yeah, we worked up a pretty cool version of it, I guess.
Vance Randolph, who recorded a few years after Sidney, also recorded May Kennedy singing the same song. And I don't know how they came about this information, but he reported that this old version started giving way to the more common version around 1890. So there's just a little specific information. I don't know how they figured that out, but
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself gravitating to singing a song in the same key as the field recording?
Yes, I accidentally, we go put the field recordings away and get out our instruments and work on them and put them where we think, you know, it serves our voices best. But yeah, that one specifically, we decided we might want to use May in the beginning a little bit, maybe, if we could.
To the actual recording.
The actual recording. And so we went back and she was singing in C minor and we were playing in C minor. And I was like, oh, great.
That worked out well.
Yeah.
But you didn't consciously do that. It just
No,
worked out.
it
Yeah,
just
that's cool.
happened. Yeah. And then Emma too. I was singing a song that Emma Dusenberry sang, and I went back to consult her melody, and I was like, "Oh, we're in the same key." So, yeah.
You didn't use this language for it, but earlier you referred to, you know, with the field recordings, there being lots of room for interpretation. So in a way, a blank slate. Are there songs that you feel you sort of changed the mood of the song a little bit by the picking pattern or the choice of chords, or?
I'm not so sure. Like the singing, you know, is evocative of a certain mood, and at least I can speak for myself. When I'm putting guitar chords behind it, it's to capture that mood and enhance it, really. To
amplify that mood.
Yeah, and to try to imagine what, you know, if the singer was thinking in terms of chords, which probably weren't, but what chords would they want to go there, you know? So you're not going to hear an aberration of something way out all of a sudden appear. I mean, that's up to the listener, I suppose. But the chord progressions we end up using are pretty simple. There's not going to be a multiple, you know, tons of chords for a given song. So, yeah, we try to keep it pretty bare bones as far as that goes.
Some of the arrangements I heard in your podcast were quite, I would have to say, hypnotic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've played some of our recordings that we've played for a few people so far. We're getting this like Ozark trance vibe.
We like droney kind of things, and yeah.
Cool. Well, I just wanted to drill down a little bit into the actual techniques that you use to reimagine these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's another aspect to archival recordings, which Cindy mentioned before. You're not only encountering songs, you're encountering these people, these singers, and their encounters with Sidney and with other collectors. And you feel like you get to know them a little bit, I guess. And so who are some of the favorite people that you came across and some of their stories that you remember from the research?
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah, I loved Cinderella Kinnaird. Sidney wrote about her visit to her. She went to Willow Springs to see her and said really nice, cute things about her. And then actually in some of Sidney's correspondence later, like 'cause she was writing to Jimmy Carter, she was talking about Cinderella Kinnaird and telling a really funny story. But so I've the more I've read about her and listened to her, I just really, really love her. And then Emma Dusenberry, some of the stories Cindy told about Emma were really funny. She lived, you know, across several creek crossings, and it was really hard to get out to her house if it rained. So Sidney was stuck for days just because it was raining, trying to get out there to her. And then she had to bring her back into town because to get the electric current to record her. And she said she would tell her to drive really fast across the creeks, and she'd say, "Make it splash, Cindy." So I just love thinking about them driving through the hills and like driving through the creeks. So yeah.
One of my favorites was the Rice family, Ben Rice and his son David Rice, and they were both great ballad singers. And Ben, I don't know how old exactly he was when she recorded him, but he was up there, you know, you can tell. And his songs go, we get into Civil War things, and once again, you know, stuff I've never heard. Once again, more of these more old world melodies, you know, and he was just obviously a treasure trove of these old songs, and I was really drawn to his stuff quite a bit. I guess I should also add that we get to hear a couple of singers in those recordings that are well known to people in Springfield, Missouri, who went on to have careers on the radio and on television. But we're getting to hear them at the very start of their careers. And there's one in particular, his name is Junior Hallworth, but his nickname is Speedy Hallworth. He's a guitar player, one of the finest guitar players around. But this recording captures him when he's about, I don't know, maybe 11 years old. And his instinct for music is so good because he's going through that awkward phase where his voice is changing. But this kid has, instead of it being a handicap, he's learned to master the cracks in his voice to make it a very musical thing. You know, it's really impressive. And the song he sings is great. So that was a treat for us.
Well, what kind of characters did you encounter when you came to do research here?
Oh,
Those were some weirdos.
Those
Sorry.
were strange people.
no, it was great because being the nerds that we are, when I saw Steve, I was like, I know that guy. He's from the videos, from the.
Right.
So that was cool. Strange characters, I don't know. I can say that to a person, the people we met here were helpful, completely friendly and helpful, and never left us with a question unanswered, never left us with a resource that they couldn't find. So it was a wonderful experience in that way for us, for sure. Any weirdos you can think of that you met?
Oh, lots.
All of us are fellow nerds.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
No, it was, I don't know, I didn't know what to expect coming here and doing this, coming to the biggest library in the world and, trying to, figure out how to do our research and, how it was going to go. But as soon as we got here, just everyone was so helpful, and we had no idea what we were doing or where to go or how things worked. But everyone was just, they didn't make us feel silly. They just, took us right in and showed us how things work. And we're very happy that we were here. That was the main thing that made us feel so good, that everybody was just really glad we wanted to look at these things and listen to these things and learn. And
How many reading rooms did you use while you were here?
let's see, we spent most of the time listening in the AFC. We had made an appointment for one morning to go to the performing arts reading room to read some of Sidney's correspondence, and then we got there and we're like, oh, we're gonna need a lot of time for this. So we ended up being in there for days. And we went to prints and photographs and looked at some of the photos of that were taken by Vance Randolph of some of our singers.
Those are the three main places. I will say about the people that we met, it was good over the course of the time we were here. Like each day you'd get a little more time with the people and just to learn all the fascinating individual stories. And you're like, oh, how are you involved in music? And you're like, well, I play trumpet. And you're like, oh, So that was really neat for us. Everyone that works here has an interesting story for sure.
All right. So I know you had mentioned in the past some future projects that you had in mind that also might involve research. So what are you thinking of cooking up next after your Sidney Robertson album?
We
have about 10 projects we're ready to do.
Lots of irons in the fire.
Right.
The Sidney Robertson recordings are so close in time to the Vance Randolph recordings, just a couple of years later. And they were so involved in each other's goings on, and she advocated for him, he assisted her when she, and so the recordings that Vance Randolph made that are in the AFC, that's we've been listening to those as well, and there's a lot of songs we're dying to get to from that. We actually kind of interrupted a project that we were doing with the Mary Parler collection at University of Arkansas So we'll want to get back to that very, very
Get
soon.
back to
and,
that.
And that's a pretty huge collection, right? Compared to the
Yeah,
ones, these
yeah.
other ones. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's-
pretty vast.
It's the biggest one, isn't it? At the
I think so, yeah.
Ozarks.
Numbers wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put Mary Parlor aside to focus on Sydney. Maybe that maybe that happens to Mary Parlor.
Yeah, but you'll get to it, and it'll
Yeah.
be another great project. And I think I think that collection's going to be talked about more in the years to come. I think there's other people starting to work on it.
Yeah,
So I think
that's good.
That's a cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do people see you as popularizers of some of these old songs in the field recordings?
Now that would require that what we do is popular. No, we're just fortunate that when we started doing this, that people did respond. You know, and that's why we've stayed. Part of the reason we've stayed on that path is because people tend to like it, and so. I will say that with this project, we are going into some territory sonically that's different than what we did with, say, our first record. That, yeah, people may find that a little bit more accessible, maybe, than just simple banjo, guitar, voice recordings. Some stuff that might have a little bit of a groove here and there, you know,
Nice.
things like that.
Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to hearing
Yeah.
this album, by the way.
Yeah.
But just we think the things that we've heard that you've done have been spectacular. We think you're doing a great job with these field recordings, and we can't wait to hear more of it. Before we wrap up the interview, I always like to say that for people who are watching this interview, if you're seeing an interview video in isolation on the Library of Congress website, it's because there's a concert by Mark and Cindy, the Creek Rocks, and you should search for that concert on the Library of Congress website because there's a video of that too. So if you're seeing just the interview, look for the concert. And then the last question I always like to ask is whether there's anything that we didn't think to ask, but that you want to say to the Library of Congress audience.
This is a terrific honor to be here and to be able to play tonight. I've been on the website in the past and seen the artists who have performed here and watched the videos. And up until recently, it never occurred to me that I'd be able to perform, that we'd be able to perform on this stage and be among those names. And so that's one thing I want to say, is just what a terrific honor it is to be here.
It's an honor to have you.
It is.
You are the quintessential artists in resonance. You resonate with the field recordings. They resonate with you. You are wonderful researchers, arrangers, composers, scholars, performers. And that's what this fellowship is all about, is combining those.
That's very
So-
kind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you, and we're looking
Yeah.
forward to the concert tonight.
As are we.
Yep.
Cindy, did you have anything additional that you wanted to say?
Well, one thing that is meaningful to me through this whole thing was sometimes Mark and I feel a little isolated in what we do, and we get people at our shows that are like, I liked the sound of that, but you know what? It's not for everybody. You know, like, thank you. You know, but I'm like,
Yeah.
why not? Why isn't it for everybody? Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
folk music. That's what it is. It's for everybody. But this whole experience for me has just kind of shown me that we are not alone. Like, you know, just y'all exist, and you know, and the 22 other applicants for this fellowship, you know, are out there doing, you know, wanting to do the same thing, and that is just so nice to think about and so encouraging, and it's a really wonderful thing to be a part of, and yeah.
Agreed.
Great.
Well, we are very honored to have you. So let's thank one more time the Creek Rocks, Mark Bilyeu, Cindy Woolf. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks to Jennifer Cutting, my co-interviewer. And this is the Homegrown Concert Series. Thank you.